Good morning, everyone. My condolences to the Moranchel family. Roberto was one of our treasures, and we will miss him. We miss him already very, very deeply. I had the pleasure of knowing Roberto both as a work colleague and as a former graduate school colleague. We went to GW, we shared Dora McGrath. I don't know if he's here this morning, but we shared Dora McGrath as one of our faculty advisors, and we wrung our hands at our inability to meet his expectations, which were very high. But Roberto strove always to do better. And that's one of the lasting legacies that I believe he left all of us back at the Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development. He never wanted us to settle. And so there were many, many occasions, and I'm sure Gabriella remembers them, when he would enter your office with a stack of architecture books, and he had pages marked, and he wanted you to spend time looking at the miracles of places far less affluent than Arlington, and what they had been able to achieve because they had a will to do better. And he pushed us, and he pushed us again and again, with courage, with an intensity that was always polite, always respectful, but never wavering. And for that, we have become a better community. We have great buildings on the way, and it is largely due to Roberto's influence and his willingness to work with developers. John is here today, John Stansky, and others, to make sure that those projects were better than when they started with us. I can tell you that in my role as department director, I frequently heard from the development community that Roberto was working them too hard. And my response to them was, Roberto is doing his job. That's what we want him to do. The second area I wanted to speak to briefly, and I apologize if I tear up, is Roberto and his family. Because Ron is absolutely right. They were inextricably a part of his day, whether you knew them outside of the office or not. His pride is evident in each and every one of their successes as they recovered, moved on, achieved a new milestone. We knew about it. Reading to his grandchildren was a very special thing for him. And he and I actually shared a funny story about a book that I bet you probably don't even realize exists. It's called Roberto the Insect Architect. And it is a marvel of art and words, and children love it. And every time they read it, it's got a different sight to see and a different thing to find in it. But he loved the fact that there was a book that blended architecture and children and ideas, and just something that he could share with his grandchildren who couldn't at that tender age understand what their grandfather did. I read that book to my children many times and took great pleasure in it. We loved talking about it and the special warmth that it gave us as we had our little ones on our laps. His personal warmth was something that permeated everything he did. And in talking to folks in our HR department over the last couple of weeks as they worked with Roberto's family and so forth, one of the funniest stories that came out was about Roberto and the exercise classes. You all remember the wellness class that he attended very faithfully in the neon yellow sweatsuit. That's all we had to tell people, to the extent that they needed to know who Roberto was, put one name and one face together. He was a faithful attendee, and he strove very hard to stay fit and to stay well as long as he could. But everything he did was filled with warmth. His personal comfort in who he was, his elegance, whether it was that yellow sweatsuit or being dressed for a formal occasion at work. He was a wonderful man, and we will miss him. And we thank you for sharing him with us.